Very good morning to all of you, and welcome to lecture 6, that is lecture 3 for the chapter 2, units and measurements. In the previous class, we have studied about the applications of dimensions, and in that applications of dimensions, what we have done, we have studied one application, that how we can find out the dimensions for the unknown quantities that are present in an equation that we can do with the help of the dimensional analysis. And in the last slide, I have left you with this example as an homework. I hope that you have done it. Still, if some of you people were not able to do it, let me give you the solution for this one first, and then we'll be moving towards the next application of the dimension analysis. And I request you all to keep your notebook along with you, in which you have written the dimensional formula. So I have made you write the dimensional formula in the previous classes. So those dimensional formulae, we will be using them one or another in the applications to come. All right. So please have that notebook along with you, because I do believe that you have not remembered them all. So initially we'll be just seeing up the notebook and writing up the dimensional formula. And later on, when we will be in a good practice, we can easily be writing it without seeing the notebook. So let me solve this example that I have given you as a homework, and then I'll be proceeding with the second application of the dimensional analysis. So let's do this one. So this was example number 4, and it says that if F is force, V is velocity, then we need to find the dimensions for alpha and beta that are involved in this equation. So first we can find out the dimensions for beta. I've told you the working rules, and in that working rules I've told you this, that log of some quantity is dimensionless, as well as whatever be the present inside the brackets after log is dimensionless. All right, just like sine theta is dimensionless, and theta is also dimensionless. Similarly, log x is dimensionless, and whatever be x inside the brackets of log is dimensionless. So you can write this thing, that the dimensions of this 2 pi beta upon v square is m0, l0, t0. So this quantity which is inside the brackets of this log is dimensionless. That's what we know from our working rules. So you can write this thing, that we know that log x is dimensionless. So the dimensions for 2 pi beta upon v square has to be equal to m0, l0, t0. All right. So that's what we mean by saying this thing, that something is dimensionless. Dimensionless means its dimensions are m0, l0, and t0. All right. Now, 2 pi is a constant, numerical constant. It do not have any dimensions. So we can write it like this. The dimensions for beta is equal to m0, l0, t0, and then we can multiply this v square, cross multiply it. We can multiply this v square after writing its dimensions. And the dimensions for velocity is lt minus 1. We know this. The dimensions for velocity is lt minus 1. And here we have to write the square of it, because in the equation, v square is involved. All right. So that's what I've done. I've written first the dimensions for this v, that is lt minus 1. And after squaring it, I have cross multiplied it. So now the dimensions for beta become m0, l0, t0 multiplied by the dimensions of velocity square, that is lt minus 1 square. And why I have dropped this 2 pi? Because it's a numerical constant, and numerical constants do not have any dimensions. So it can be dropped out. All right. Now you can see this, that this m0, l0, t0, you have to solve it out. First, you have to square these two quantities, because there is a square involved. So you should be writing it L2 t to the power minus 2, like this. You can be writing it like this, L2 t to the power minus 2. And now, solving it out, finally you can write the dimensions for beta is equal to m0 and L2 t minus 2. All right. We know this thing, when the coefficients are same and powers are different, the powers get added up in multiplication. So here L0 is multiplied by L2, so 0 plus 2. Similarly, T0 is multiplied by T to the power minus 2, 0 plus minus 2, that is equal to minus 2. All right. So this is the final result for the dimensions for beta. All right. So first thing we have solved, we have got the dimensions for beta. Now we need to solve the dimensions for alpha. All right. So let's do for alpha. In this equation, alpha equal to f v square upon beta square log to the base e in brackets 2 pi beta upon v square. We know this complete quantity, that is log of 2 pi beta upon v square, is dimensionless, as well as the quantity inside the bracket of log is also dimensionless. So for this complete quantity, the dimensions are m0, l0, t0. All right or not? Then we can say this, that the alpha, it is having dimensions as f v square upon beta square, because the another quantity which is in multiplication with f v square upon beta square is having dimensions as m0, l0, t0. So we can write it like this, that the dimensions for alpha, they are equal to the dimensions of f v square upon dimensions of beta square. All right. I'm repeating this thing again, that why I've written it like this, because alpha is equal to f v square upon beta square, and this complete quantity, that is log to the base e 2 pi beta upon v square, has to be dimensionless. I've told you log of x is dimensionless, as well as whatever be inside the bracket of x, inside a bracket of log, has to be dimensionless. So it comes out to be alpha is equal to f v square upon beta square. Now write up the dimensions for f, that is force, v, that is velocity, and beta also we can write, because we have just obtained the dimensions of beta in equation number, in our solution number 1, that is part A. We have obtained this beta dimension. Just put the dimensions of f, v, and beta. So we'll be getting it like this. For f, I have written mlt minus 2. For v, I have written lt minus 2, and it is square, so I have squared it. So lt minus 1 square, and in place of beta square, I have written square of this dimension that I have obtained in the previous solution, that is m0 l2 t minus 2 square. Now solve it up. You have to solve it up. So it becomes like this. First, I have squared the lt minus 1, so it becomes l square t to the power minus 2. And in the denominator, when you square the complete m0 l2 t minus 2, you are left with m0 l4 t minus 4. All right. Now solve it up. In the numerator, we are having 3 l to the power 3, l square multiplied by l is l to the power 3, and t to the power minus 4, that is t to the power minus 2, and this t to the power minus 2, they get added up, and you are left with t to the power minus 4. That t to the power minus 4 get cancelled out with this t to the power minus 4, and you are left with this. All right. So when we solve the numerator and denominator, you are left with this m l3 t to the power minus 4. So m l3 to the power minus 4 in the numerator, and in the denominator you are left with m0 l4 t to the power minus 4. Cancel this t to the power minus 4 from numerator and denominator. They get cancelled out. And this l to the power 4, when it moves to the numerator, it becomes minus, and you are left with m l minus 1. So the dimensions for alpha, it becomes m l minus 1. All right. You can write it like this. So this is the solution for the homework that I have given to you. If you are having some doubts, please ask, and then I'll be proceeding towards the second application of the dimension analysis. All right. Please ask your doubts if you are having any doubts. So let's proceed towards the next application of dimension analysis. And I request you all to be with your notebooks in which you have written the dimensional formula that I have made you write in the previous 2 classes. We have done the dimensional formula for various physical quantities. We will be using some of them in order to apply the dimensional analysis for the second application. So let's have a look at the second application. But before that, I must be giving you some practice problems on the first application of the dimension analysis. That is to find the dimensions of the unknowns that are involved in the equation. So please write these and try to solve them up. All right. So this is the first problem. So these are the practice problems that you have to do at your homes. And when we'll be coming back for the second class, I'll be discussing these problems with you. If you are having some doubts in these, I'll be solving them for you. Meanwhile, try to solve them up. I've also given you the answer so that you will be knowing this thing that whether you have solved it correctly or not. Let's move towards the second application of the dimensional analysis. Very quickly, we'll be doing the second application. And this application is really very important. A lot of questions will be there from this application in the exam. And it is really very useful application for you to solve out some other things also. So in the second application, it says that we can easily be able to derive a relationship between different physical quantities by using the dimension analysis. All right. So to derive a relationship between different physical quantities, we can use the dimension analysis. By making the principle of homogeneity of dimensions, we can derive the expressions of a physical quantity if we know the various factors on which the quantity depends. All right. If we know this thing that a quantity is dependent on certain factors, if we know about all those factors, we can derive a relationship between those factors and the quantity by making the use of principle of homogeneity. Principle of homogeneity means that whatever be the dimensions of the quantity towards the left hand side, the same dimensions has to be for the quantities that are involved in the right hand side. All right. So this means this thing, the dimensions of LHS has to be equal to the dimension of RHS. So this is what the principle of homogeneity is. And by using this principle, we can easily derive up the expression for various physical quantities, provided we should know this thing that on which factors the quantity depends. All right. So let's take an example. And once I'll be solving up the example, you will be getting to know this thing in a more better way. All right. So let's take an example. Example 1. It says this: the expression for the centripetal force capital F acting on a particle depends on, all right, it depends on mass m of the particle, velocity small v of the particle, and radius r of the circular path. See, whenever a body it moves on a circular path, a force acts on the body, and that force is known as centripetal force. When we will be discussing the laws of motion, we will be deriving an expression for the centripetal force, and then I'll be explaining it in a more deeper way that what this centripetal force is. Our job is not to know about the centripetal force. Our job is to find an expression for the centripetal force by using the dimensional analysis. That's what our question is, because we know that this quantity centripetal force that is denoted by capital F depends on three factors. And what are these factors? One is mass m of the particle, second velocity v of the particle, and third radius r of the particle. All right. So let's try to solve it. Actually, we know only this thing, that this force is proportional to m. We don't know that whether it is directly proportional or inversely proportional, or it is proportional to the square of m, or it is proportional to the cube of m, or it is proportional to the square root of m, or inverse square root. We don't know about this, but only we know this, that it depends on m. All right. So how it depends, that we have to find by using the dimension. Are you getting me? That we know this, that F is dependent on m, F is also dependent on v, F is dependent on r, but we don't know that how F is dependent on these three factors, whether it is depending on only the single power of m, or it is depending to m square, or it is dependent on v square or v cube or r square or r cube or inverse of r, whatever may be the thing. But we know this, it depends on these three factors. We need to apply the dimension analysis to find out this, that how this F is dependent on these three factors. So let's try to solve it. All right. So first you have to write it like this. According to the question, F is proportional to m. So we will be just writing like this: F is proportional to m, and we don't know whether it is proportional to m to the power a, m to the power 1 or 2 or 3 or half or minus half. This a can be having any value. So we have written it like this, that F proportional m to the power a. All right. Again, We know this, that F depends on V. So F proportional V to the power B. All right. F is proportional to V to the power B. Force is proportional to velocity, but we don't know that how it is proportional to velocity. So we have written its power as B. All right. So we need to find this A, B, and C, whatever we are using, we will be finding it. All right. Also, F proportional to radius, that is the third factor. So we have written F proportional R to the power C. All right. Now combining these three equations, 1, 2, and 3, combining these three equations, we can write like this, that F proportional M to the power A, V to the power B, and R to the power C. All right. And our job is to find this A, B, and C by using the dimensions. That's what we have to do. If we know this, we can easily be writing the formula for F. And when we remove the proportionality sign, there comes a constant that is denoted by K. All right. So we can write it like this, that F equal to K, where K is a constant, M to the power A, V to the power B, R to the power C. All right. Now our job is to find the values of A, B, and C. If we are able to find the values of A, B, and C, then we can put those values in this equation number 5, and then we are able to get the formula for this force F. All right. So here is the use of dimension. I hope that I am very much clear in this explanation. Still, if you are having some doubts, please ask me. In our equation 5, we have written F equal to K, M to the power A, V to the power B, and R to the power C. Now we have to write the dimensions for the quantities that are involved. All right, both sides. So in the towards the left hand side, we are having force. So we have to write the dimensions for force, and towards the right hand side, we are left with M, that is mass. In this case, it is mass. It may be possible that in some another example, M stands for something else. All right. So we can use the symbols for anything else, but the dimensions has to be correct. For that particular physical quantity, we have to write the dimension. For this M, capital M is the dimension. For this V, velocity, the dimension is LT minus 1. All right. And for R, the dimension is capital L, because radius is some type of length. The dimension is capital L. So please replace all the quantities that are involved either in right hand side or towards the left hand side with the dimensions. And we know this dimension because we have done the dimension formula. So in place of F, I can write like this. And by the principle of homogeneity, we know this, that whatever be the dimensions towards the left hand side, they have to be equal to the dimensions of the right hand side. All right. So in place of F, I have written MLT minus 2. That is the dimension for force. K do not have any dimension. It is a constant. In place of M, I have written the dimensions as capital M to the power A. In place of V, that is velocity, I have written the dimensions as LT minus 1, and the power to that is small b. And in place of R, I have written the dimension as capital L, and the power to that is small c. All right. Please write this equation, and from hereafter, we will be solving it in the next slide. All right. So I hope that you have written it along with me. Still, I am giving you some time to write so that we'll be able to solve it in the next slide. See what I have done in this slide. I have separated out the terms that were involved towards the right hand side. M was having power A, LT minus 1 was having power B. So I've written it like this: L to the power B, T to the power minus 1 to the power B, and L to the power C. All right. So what I can do is now that I can add up the powers. If the coefficients are same and the powers are different, the power gets added up. For example, x square dot x cube is x to the power 5, that is 2 plus 3. Similarly, L to the power B and L to the power C, that I can write L to the power P plus C. That's what I can do. If the coefficients are same and the powers are different, we can add the power. That's what we have learned in algebra. So writing it in this manner, it's separating the terms with their respective powers, I can write it like this. In the left hand side, M is having power 1, L is also having power 1, and T is having power minus 2. towards the right hand side, m is having power a, L is having power b plus c. Why so? Because we are having two terms of L. One is having power b and other one is having power c. So I can write it like this. When the coefficients are same and the powers are different, the powers get added up. So I've written L to the power b plus c, and c was having power minus b. Why so? Because minus 1 multiplied by this b, it becomes c to the power minus b. All right. Now compare up. We have to make a comparison of the powers towards the left hand side and right hand side. So I can write it like this. This a is the power of m towards the right hand side, and towards the left hand side, m is having power as 1. So I can write a equal to 1. Comparing the power. Similarly, towards the left hand side, L is having power 1, and towards the right hand side, L is having power b plus c. So I should be writing b plus c should be equal to 1, because powers has to be same, both the sides. And minus b is the power of t towards the right hand side, and minus 2 is the power of t towards the left hand side. So while comparing these two, I can write minus b is equal to minus 2. So I'll be getting these three equations. See, a is the power of m, that is equal to 1. B plus c is the power of L, and that is equal to 1. And this minus b is the power of t, that is equal to minus 2. So that's what I have done over here. I have written all the three equations. I've compared the powers of all the three variables, and then I've got three equations. So from this, I can write b is equal to 2. All right, this minus get cancelled out with this minus, and I'm left with b equal to 2. All right, and a is having power 1, that I already know. And from this, I can write c is equal to 1 minus b. All right, that's what I can do. C is equal to 1 minus b, and b is 2. That is what I have obtained from this third equation. B is 2. So in place of this minus b, I can write minus 2. So solving this for a, b, and c, I can write it like this. A equal to 1, that was quite clear. And b equal to 2, that is from the third equation I've got, cancelling these two minus. In place of b plus c is equal to 1, I have written c equal to 1 minus b, and value of b was 2. So in place of this b, I have written 2, and I am left with c equal to minus 1. All right. So these are the three values that I've got: a equal to 1, b equal to 2, and c is equal to minus 1. Putting all these values of a, b, and c in equation number 5 that we have obtained. So that's what we have to do. Put the values of a, b, and c in equation number 5. So I am left with f equal to k, m to the power 1, v to the power 2, and r to the power minus 1. That's what I'm left with. I hope it is clear, because in equation number 5, I have written f equal to k, m to the power a, v to the power b, and r to the power c. So just I have replaced the powers with the powers that I have obtained, the values of a, b, and c I have obtained over here. So I've got a equal to 1, so I have written m to the power 1, b equal to 2, I have written v to the power 2, and c equal to minus 1, that's why r to the power minus 1. So it can be written, this minus 1 is there, so it will go in the denominator. So you can write it like this. And the formula, it becomes f equal to k mv square upon r. Just because the power of r is minus, it will go in the denominator. If some quantity is having power 1, we generally don't write it. Okay. If the quantity in itself, it means that it is having power 1, it means m to the power 1, and v square, mv square in the numerator, and in the denominator, this r will go because it is having power minus 1. This is the final required expression for the force, that f equal to some constant k multiplied with mv square upon r. So now we know that how this force, it is dependent on the three factors: mass, velocity, and radius. So it is directly proportional to the mass, directly proportional to the square of the velocity, and inversely proportional to the radius of the path along which the particle is moving. All right. So I hope that it is clear. It is still, if you are having some problem, I'm stopping a bit for a while, and then you will be able to put up your questions and I'll be answering them. Okay, let's move towards the second example. Very quickly, we'll be doing the second example. It says that a simple pendulum, it is attached to a bob and oscillates under the action of gravity. The time period of oscillation of the simple pendulum, it depends on its length L, mass of the bob M, and acceleration due to gravity G, small g. We have to derive an expression for the time period using the methods of dimension. All right. So here we need to find T, capital T, the time period of the oscillation of a pendulum, that we need to find, and it is dependent on the length L, mass M of the bob, and acceleration due to gravity G. All right. So let's do it. We have to proceed it in the same manner. According to the question, capital T is proportional to the L to the power A, because it is depending on the length, but we don't know on how it is depending on the length, whether it is directly proportional or inversely proportional or to the square root or to the cube root, we don't know. That's why we have put a power A to L. That's the first factor on which the time depends. Secondly, it is depending on the mass. So we should be writing T proportional to M to the power B, and it is our equation number 2. Now, this capital T is also depends on acceleration due to gravity, that is small g. So we can write T proportional d g to the power C. This is our equation number 3. All right. Now, combining equations 1, 2, and 3, we can write T proportional L to the power A, M to the power B, and G to the power C. All right. This is our equation 4. And when we remove this proportionality sign, there will be one constant denoted by K. So it becomes T is equal to K, L to the power A, M to the power B, G to the power C. All right. Now we have to write the dimensions for the quantities that are involved in equation number 5 towards the left hand side as well as towards the right hand side. All right. That's what we need to do. So let's solve it. The dimension for time period T is T only. So you can write it like this: T. K do not have any dimensions. Length L will have dimension as capital L. Mass small m will have a dimension as capital M. And this small g is acceleration due to gravity. So it will have the dimensions of acceleration. All right. It is acceleration due to gravity. So its dimensions will be LT minus 2. We have done it. The dimensions for acceleration is LT minus 2. With the powers, I have written L to the power A, M to the power B, and in place of G, I have written the dimension as LT minus 2 and the power is C. Now we need to separate out the terms towards the left hand side. So you can write it like this. Here L is having power A. Here L is having power C. So when you multiply it inside, this power is for the complete bracket. So L is having power C. So I have written it L to the power C. M is having power B. And T is having power minus 2C. So that's what I've done. Now coefficients are same and powers are different. So what we can do, we can add these powers. We have learned this from algebra that whenever the coefficients are same and the powers are different, we can always add them. So that's what I have done. Here T becomes equal to T to the power 1 and L has power A plus C, M has power B, and capital T is having power minus 2C. All right. So separating the terms with their respective powers, I can write it like this. Towards the left hand side, T is having power 1. So that's what I have written. Towards the right hand side, L is having power A plus C, M is having power B, and capital T is having power minus 2C. Now we need to compare the power towards the left hand side as well as towards the right hand side. All right. So by comparing, we can see this, that towards the left hand side, L is not involved. It means L is having power 0 over here. Similarly, M is not present in the left hand side equation. So we can say this, that the power for M towards the left hand side is 0. All right. So you can write A plus C equal to 0. B is also equal to 0. And minus 2C, it is equal to 1. The power of T towards the left hand side is 1 and towards the right hand side it is minus 2C. So it means this, that 1 is equal to minus 2C. All other terms are not present towards the left hand side equation. So their power, we assume that they are having power 0, because something having power 0 is 1. If we multiply some quantity with 1, it do not affect the quantity. We will be getting the same quantity. That's why A plus C is equal to 0 because L is having power 0 towards the left hand side, and B is also equal to 0 because M is having power 0 towards the left hand side. All right. So let's compare the LHS and RHS, and we can be writing up this thing. All right. B is the power of M. So no M was involved. So we can write it like this. A plus C was the power of L. No L was involved towards the equation in left hand side. We can write it like this. And minus 2C, we can write it like this as 1. Now we can solve for C. First we can solve for C. B where we have got 0. We can solve for C. C is equal to minus half. All right. So C is equal to minus half. That's what I have done first. B equal to 0. I have written it B equal to 0. And from this equation A plus C, I can write A equal to minus C. When it goes towards the right hand side, A becomes equal to minus C. And the value of C was minus half. So minus of minus half will become plus 1, plus half. So A is equal to half. All right. Again, I'm telling you that what I have done, this minus 2C was equal to 1. So now C becomes equal to 1 by 2. And the minus power is there, minus sign is there. So it will be C equal to minus half. B was equal to 0 only. And A plus C was equal to 0. It means this thing that A equal to minus C. All right. Now C was having value minus half, so A becomes equal to half. All right. So solving A, B, and C, we have got the values of A, B, and C. Now put these values in equation number 5. So putting the values of A, B, and C in equation number 5, I can write it should be T. It should be T. By mistake, it is F has been written over here. So I must be replacing it with T. Let me replace this for you people, that you people don't get confused that from where that F has come out. It is T only. So again, it is T equal to K L to the power half, M to the power 0, G to the power minus half. In equation 5, we have written T equal to K L to the power A, M to the power B, and G to the power C. In place of A, I have written half. Value of A is half. In place of B, I have written 0. Value of B is 0. And in place of C, I have written minus half. All right. So you can write it like this. When the power is minus, it will go in the denominator and becomes the plus power. L to the power half and G to the power half. That's what we are left with. Something having power half is root of that quantity. All right. X to the power half is root X. Similarly, L to the power half is root L and G to the power half is root G. So finally, you can write it like this. T equal to K root of L by G. So this is the final required expression for the time period of a simple pendulum. I hope it is clear. Still, if you want to ask something, I'm stopping a bit for around 30 seconds. You can easily be asking me. All right, then moving towards the next question. That is the third example that I have done for you people. Let's do one more example and then I'll be giving you some questions for your homework. This is example number 3. It says the velocity of sound wave small v through a medium depends on the density of the medium, that is small d, and the modulus of velocity, that is small e, capital E. We need to deduce an expression for the velocity of sound using the method of dimension. All right. Here the velocity v depends only on two quantities. Earlier we were having the quantities that were depending on 3 factors, but here only 2 factors are given. So I'll be solving it for 2 factors only. So according to the question, we can write it like this, that v is proportional to d to the power a, where d is your density. It is given. It depends on density. So we have written d to the power a. We don't know how it depends. So we need to find the power a. Also, velocity v, it depends on modulus of elasticity e to the power b. All right. Now combining these 2 equations, we can write it like this, that v to the power v proportional d to the power a e to the power b. And when you remove this proportionality sign, there will be one constant and you are left with v is equal to k d to the power a e to the power b. All right. We are left with this thing. This is our equation 4. Now our job is to find the values of A and B. All right. So these two values we people should be finding. Then if we are able to put these values in equation 4, we'll be getting the formula for the velocity V of the sound wave. All right. Then we need to write the dimensions of the quantities that are involved in the left hand side as well as in the right hand side. So in the left hand side, we are having velocity. Velocity is having dimension as LT minus 1. Constant K do not have any dimension. And the dimensions of density is ML minus 3. Dimension of density is ML minus 3. This modulus of elasticity, it will be having the same dimensions as the Young's modulus. Right? So this modulus of elasticity will be having the same dimensions as the Young's modulus. Young's modulus is also a modulus of elasticity for solids. All right. So we will be learning about these modulus of elasticity in chapter number 11. All right. So then we'll be dealing with chapter number 10, I think. All right. The mechanical properties of the solid. Then we will be learning in more detail about these modulus. But we have studied about their dimensional formula. We can use that. The same dimensional formula of Young's modulus is that for pressure also. Pressure and Young's modulus, they are having the same dimension. So writing of the dimensions, we can write it like this. For velocity, I can write LT minus 1. For density, I can write ML minus 3. All right. And the power is A. For capital E, that is modulus of elasticity, I have to write ML minus 1, T minus 2 and whole to the power B. All right. So this is the dimension for modulus of elasticity or the Young's modulus. ML minus 1, T minus 2, complete power is B because E is having power B in our equation number 4. Now separate out the terms. Here M is having power A. Here in the second term M is having power B. So I can be writing it like this. M is power A, M is having power B. Similarly, over here in the first term L is having power minus 3A. So I've written L is having power minus 3A. In the second term L is having power minus B. So I've written minus B. L is power with minus B. And T is having power minus 2B. That's what I've written over here. T is having power minus 2B. Now with the coefficients are same and the powers are different, we can easily add them. All right. That's what we have learned in algebra. So A plus B, M is having power A plus B. L is having power minus 3A minus B. And T is having power minus 2B. We can write it like this. Separating the terms with the respective power, you can be writing it like this. In the left hand side, L is having power 1. T is having power minus 1. Towards the right hand side, M is having power A plus B. L is having power minus 3A minus B. And T is having power minus 2B. I hope it is clear. All right. Now we have to compare of the power in the left hand side and the right hand side equation. So we can write A plus B equal to 0 because no M term is involved, no mass term is involved in the left hand side. So we can write A plus B equal to 0. Also minus 3A minus B, it is equal to 1. L is having power 1 in the left hand side and towards the right hand side it is minus 3A minus B, and T is having power minus 2B towards the right hand side, and that has to be equal to minus because the power of T is minus 1 in the left hand side. All right. That's what we can do. We can write A plus B equal to 0, minus 3A minus B is equal to 1 and minus 2B equal to minus 1. So I have written it like this. A plus B equal to 0, minus 3A minus B is equal to 1, minus 2B equal to minus 1. From these three equations, we need to find the value of A and B. So from third equation, you can easily be finding the value of B, that is B equal to half. When you solve it out, this minus 2 will go in the denominator, both the minus sign get cancelled out and you are left with B equal to half. So B is having half, and from equation number 1, A plus B equal to 0, then A is equal to minus B. All right. So the value of A will be minus B. B you have obtained as half, so A becomes minus half. So solving for A, B and C, you can write B equal to half. From equation number 3 you have written it. All right. And A equal to minus B, that is first equation will give you this thing, that A equal to minus B. In place of B you can write half. The value of A becomes minus half. Now we have to put the values of A and B in equation number 4 that we have obtained. So it becomes v velocity is equal to k constant, d to the power minus half, the value of a is minus half, and e to the power half, the value of b is half. All right. So you can write it like this. When the power is negative, it will go in the denominator and it becomes positive in the denominator. So you are left with v equal to k e to the power half d to the power half. Then sorry, v equal to k e to the power half divided by d to the power half. All right. And now you have to take a square root, because when the power is half, you always take the square root. Equation becomes like this. So this is the final expression that is required for the velocity. That is v equal to k root e by d. All right, where d is your density and e is your modulus of elasticity. I hope these things are very much clear to you people, and these are really very simple problems. Still, if you are having some doubts, I'm there to help you out. All right. Now, there is one homework problem for you people. You have to do some homework problem. So I have put a question. So this is the frequency nu of vibration of a stretched string. It depends on its length L, the mass per unit length small m, and the tension T on the string. You have to deduce an expression for nu, frequency nu. It is nu, it is not V. Frequency nu of the vibration of the string using the methods of dimension. So it is your homework. The answer you will be getting, it must be like this, that nu equal to k upon L root of T by m. All right. So you have to put your thinking caps on and you have to play with the dimensions a lot in order to solve this question. One hint I am giving to you. This hint is the tension T is a type of force. So for T, you have to write the dimensions of force. That is MLT minus 2. And this is M. It is not mass. It is mass per unit length. All right. It is not given that it is mass. So the dimensions for mass per unit length you have to use. That is M upon L, ML minus 1. All right. So for the second factor, it is denoted by small m, but the dimension you have to use it as capital M, L minus 1. Why so? Because it is mass per unit length. It is not mass. If it would be mass, then you could be using capital M only. But it is mass per unit length. That's why you have to use M, L minus 1. All right. So this is what you have to do as your homework. This is all that I want to tell you for today. I'll be sending you this PDF. All right. And please send me the homework on my email ID. You have to solve it in your copy, take a picture of it, and then send it to me back. All right. On my email ID, purvesh.kumar@gmail.com. Please send it back to me. I'll be checking it up and then replying you back. All right. Please do that. Don't take it lightly. You have to submit the homework. All right. And thank you very much for joining the class. Be safe at your home and please try to solve out the questions. I'll be joining you soon with some other classes. Thanks a lot.